And with that, let's now move forward to another very exciting session on the topic, Rethinking Building Design and Engineering in New Normal. Now, this stimulating session is being moderated by a very eminent moderator, Shabnam, Bassi, Fellow and Associate Director, TERI, Secretary, GRIHA Council. Now, prior to joining TERI, Shabnam had worked with the United Nations Development Programme, and she's worked in close cooperation with the central, state, and municipal bodies to facilitate ECBC integration, develop a framework to strengthen enforcement of ECBC implementation and compliance. Now, joining her, may I also please invite our distinguished speakers in an alphabetical order. We have with us Madhurima Madhav, Scientist D, Civil Engineering, Bureau of Indian Standards. And in her 19 years of work experience, she's worked for Central Road Research Institute and Rights Limited. She's also dealing with National Building Code as a joint member secretary of the concerned technical committee. We're also joined by Samantha Sullivan, Innovation Project Manager, Temprite, Lubrizol. Now, she's been at Lubrizol for 7 years and currently serves as Temprite's Innovation Project Manager and North American Sustainability Lead. Through her role, she helps drive innovation to optimize companies' portfolio and also oversees Temprite's top projects. Our next speaker joining us is Sandeep Goel, Director, Proion Consultants. Now, he comes with more than 25 years of experience of building services consulting experience and has been closely involved in the design, coordination, and innovation of MEP services design of over 100 projects. Our next speaker joining us this afternoon, we have with us Shabbir Kanchwala, Senior Vice President, Raheja Corp. Now, let me also tell you that he's an experienced top building industry professional with a demonstrated history of working in the real estate sector. So with that, let's also move forward and invite our next speakers as well. Sujal, Shah, Sheth, Director, Newage Fire Systems. In fact, having worked for over 20 years and being a regular recipient of various export awards from the Export Promotion Councils as well as Gujarat Environment, she plays a vital role in formulating business strategies and effective implementation of the same. Our final speaker for the panel discussion is Tejwant Navalkar, Executive Director, DFX Systems Private Limited. Having founded DFX Systems Private Limited in 1985, that provides engineering consultancy across building automation, software for customized applications for projects of varied nature and much more. Tejwant has been involved in design and implementation of SCADA and telemetry systems in water distribution projects. So with that, it's time to bring on board our prolific set of speakers. It's time to indulge in another interesting panel discussion. I'm going to quickly hand over the proceedings to Shabnam to take it forward from here. Over to you.
Let me just unmute. A very good afternoon to all of you. It is such a pleasure to be amongst all of you today evening. I'm really delighted to be part of today's panel. Today's panel is really a very good mix. I have people from the industry. I have people who are from the policy side and of course from the product manufacturing as well. Just to set things in context, today's topic is quite clear, and I think we all are looking up to how we are going to look at buildings in the coming future. So definitely there is something that we all need to add here, and we all have experienced and are really looking up to the building industry, how we are going to change in the coming times. We all are aware that COVID-19 has affected all communities globally and has affected all kinds of businesses. And it is quite clear that the world is going to look very different as we move beyond COVID-19 crisis to the next normal. As the industry leaders consider navigating, and we look forward to, of course, looking at least these 5 areas for a smooth resolution, and that is resolve, resilience, return, reimagine, and reform. While the government and companies globally are responding fast, but I feel that much remains to be done. In these difficult times, construction matters more than ever. We have seen in the COVID times that right from building hospitals in just a few days to donating life-saving equipments, the industry played a very vital role in responding to the crisis and also in the recovery. But at the same time, we all are aware that industry also suffered. Construction sites in many countries were shut down. Even the sites that were open had disrupted supply chains. and the operational restrictions were always there. Such disruptions have been reflected in the financial indices, and we have seen that the public engineering, construction, building material companies have dropped significantly more than average. In India, if I talk particularly about the Indian scenario, we all are aware that in 2022, we are going to see that the construction industry is expected to register a growth of 10.7%. And this is owing to the fact that the government is going to increase its focus on the infrastructure projects, as well as there is going to be a lot of demand for residential as well as commercial segment post-COVID. A fast return to business, I feel, is quite unlikely. The leaders will have to have that firm idea as to how do they want to respond beyond these COVID times. Beyond the short-term impact, I feel that in the long term, the supply chain is going to get affected quite significantly, and there are serious concerns around that. And what we have also observed that there has been an increased awareness and sensitization towards sustainability, especially within the younger demographic. There has been a subsequent rise in the demand for future-ready buildings as well that protect us against natural disasters, which will provide, for our health and well-being, and at the same time, do not impact the environment. Of course, the cost effectiveness will be kept in mind. Possibly now the time has come that the cutting edge technologies of green building practices can no longer be ignored. The theme that we are going to talk about today, that is rethinking building design engineering for the new normal, is extremely apt, and I feel that it is in tune with the need of the hour. It calls upon action. The construction industry is responding, and at the same time, we are also looking at two challenges right now. One, of course, was the climate change that we were already looking at, and now that adds the another flavor that gets added is this COVID times. Each one of us has valuable contributions in the built environment, and today I will hear all of you how are we preparing ourselves beyond these difficult times. When we speak about responding to the environment, there are essentially two aspects of development that need to be addressed. One, the foremost is decarbonization, and that's the first step to mitigate climate change. And the second, I feel, is the evolution of building technologies and the way we are going to cater to the new normal. So with these initial remarks, I would let my speakers respond to the topic first. So let me start with Ms. Madhurima. If you could, address today's topic and let us know your views on how buildings should respond in the coming times.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you very much, Shabnam, for providing this opportunity to speak on this topical subject. Yeah, I very much agree with you. COVID-19 has had both operational and financial impact on the construction industry. It has led to project delays and closure of projects, in many cases, particularly due to force majeure conditions. And it has significantly affected the businesses. These are mainly attributed to the supply chain disruptions, reduced workforce, reduced working hours, and complete lockdown conditions in many cities, and then also challenges in communication, etc. However, I personally consider these as short-term negative impacts. What I personally feel is that COVID has actually brought a significant, or I will say a phenomenal change in the working style at both the client and the industry side. Now, both the sides, they have learned to work with the reduced resources. They have also learned the importance of, efficient planning. And they have also understood that there is a need for, minimizing the overlaps, sequencing of tasks. These are very important to have, better product deliveries, efficient product deliveries. The digitization of processes has also taken place. This has also further improved the productivity. So what I feel that COVID-19, apart from the short-term negative impacts has also brought in these long-term impacts, which are very positive. And there is a need to, continue this further. And this will lead to the prosperity of this industry. The second opportunity, which I feel that this COVID-19 has brought in, is the acceptance for the modular coordination and the prefabricated construction. The masses, the adoption, the acceptability of these prefabricated construction, which are relatively new technologies, was not much. But now, when the country has already witnessed that in other countries, the industry has been able to deliver very good, timely deliver very good prefabricated constructions. So what I feel that our Indian standards, we already have Indian standards in place for prefabricated construction, like IS 15916, IS 15917, and IS 11447 for large prefabricated panels. So with the help of these standards, which have design provisions against progressive collapse, testing for joints for water tightness, and prototype testing for dynamic resilience. So this will help industry to deliver very good pre-constructed building, precast buildings. Also, it will lead to healthier and safer tidy work environments, because all these constructions will be done off-site in factories. So for that also, for precast components also, we have a series of standards like IS 6072 and 73. So this will, I feel that the barriers, it will help us to reduce the barriers and improve the acceptability of prefabricated construction in the country. Secondly, what I feel that now, because of this COVID, the communities, they are ready, they are willing to accept several changes. So we need to grab this opportunity. The policymakers as well as the industry, they should strengthen measures for carbon footprint reduction. According to me, anything which is not durable is not sustainable. And there are massive distraction taking place in the country because of inefficient planning, design, and construction. We have series of Indian standards for, a detailed subsurface investigation, ground improvement techniques. We have updated our standards on foundation designs, on subsurface investigation, on ground improvement techniques. So now these standards, along with the design codes for example, for the tall building, we have recently come out with a standard IS 16700. So all these standards, copious implementation of all these standards together will help in ensuring resilient cities. So this will ensure that the destruction, the loss of life and property because of natural disasters like landslides and earthquakes are reduced. I'm not going to talk much about the need for fire safety in buildings, or about the data centers which need our particular attention during these times, because Mr. Sandeep Goel, the other panelist, he would be speaking on this aspects. Thirdly, when we talk about sustainability, the another thing which come into my mind is energy efficiency and water efficiency. We already have energy efficient products and water efficient products in the market. But my idea is that along with efficiency, there is a need of ensuring quality of the product, for which there is a very good opportunity for the SMEs. At this stage, when the countries are not very keen in importing from China, so it gives an opportunity to SMEs to adopt our standards, implement our standards, Indian standards, which are at par with the international standards. We have recently revised those standards also. On taps, we have IS 8931. We have come out with energy efficient plumbing product standards, IS 17650, part 1 and part 2 in 2021 December itself. So these standards, their copious implementation will ensure help the industry to make their products at par with those being done internationally, and will help them to improve their exports. Thirdly, what I feel is that designs for safer interchange of clean air in the built environment and adoption of passive design features. We have all these provisions in our National Building Code. Then provisioning of on-site renewable sources of energy using solar PVs, use of solar water heating systems, building performance tracking and monitoring using BMS, National Building Code of India in its various parts and sections has covered all these aspects. So the utilization of those provisions, implementation of those aspects will help developing healthier, self-sustaining communities with efficient services. Lastly, if we talk about building construction projects in particular, so the problem of shortage of labor is being faced due to their migration. In the normal, businesses will have to work with staggered timings and will also have to follow social distancing norm. So amidst this challenge is what I feel that the standards on construction project management, their implementation, we have IS 15883 series, and then we also have standards on welfare requirements for the construction workers. So their implementation will again help the industry to deliver projects timely, within the cost, with quality, and without any compromise on the health, safety, and environment. So these all from the standards perspective, how various Indian standards can help during these tough times. And the new normal should not be taken as a, but this is my feeling that it is basically had just a short-term negative impact, and it should be taken as a long-term, positive opportunity being given through or thrown through by this pandemic. And utilization of these standards will help us create dynamic, integrated communities. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madhurima ji. That was quite well articulated, and I think thank you for sharing with us what BIS is looking at and what are the current practices that are being followed in the construction industry, and how we can use this in order to fight the pandemic in a better way. Thank you so much. Let me quickly go to my next speaker, that's Samantha. So Samantha, I will give you the floor, and please feel free to share your views with us.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss today with all of you. As mentioned earlier, I oversee our innovation projects at Lubrizol and Temprite to not only maintain our existing portfolios, but utilize several different innovation processes to identify new potential opportunities to expand those product offerings. So as you can imagine, with everybody else's role, COVID has greatly changed what we're looking at and what we claim as innovation now. When we're looking at the supply shortages and demand, and how do we make sure that we're keeping up with our customer requests and making sure that, as we get new construction and new building opportunities, how are we supplying that and building our portfolio? So it really just comes down to how can we uniquely innovate to overcome these obstacles with our partners. I think, we look at COVID in a negative light, but we can also find positive pieces, as we've mentioned earlier, that this gives us a good opportunity to have open and honest conversations with our customers and partners when we're talking about new opportunities in the building industry. It also it could potentially put an emphasis on non-traditional materials. So, I really love how we're talking about sustainability, because this is something that is not going away. We usually look at life and we say, what does the future hold? And we think about 10, 20, 30 years down the road. But sustainability is really about how can we improve our buildings today and our living arrangements today to make a better tomorrow. So I think that if we're including, more sustainable conversations into projects that could offer, diverse products moving forward that can help, whether that's energy efficient, water efficiency, reduce carbon footprint. We work in pipe and fittings, and sometimes pipe and fittings is seen as a very small piece of an overall construction of a building when we're looking at carbon footprint. But I think having that conversation up front and showing that, we could be energy efficient, we could help in different ways and reduce your carbon footprint is very important in the long run. Outside of, the actual supply chain constraints that I know everybody is seeing today, we can also talk about the impact on the workforce too. I think, even being in the position we are, when we're talking about how has COVID affected all of us, it's really about, all the people that we've seen that are either out sick or are taking time away, or the emphasis that has been put on remote work. So we're seeing a lot of people accepting of the fact that people are able to work outside of their original workspaces, and we're seeing a lot of empty buildings now. So how do we focus on looking at these empty buildings, keeping them safe. We just saw a really great video on Blaze Master. So, you know, that's a great opportunity to make sure that, you know, if there are empty places that haven't been retrofitted or there's potential opportunities for us to go into that building and make it something new, that in the interim, we're keeping it safe by making sure it's, you know, has the appropriate fire sprinkler systems inside to make sure nothing happens to it. And, you know, when we're talking about how has COVID made us think differently, obviously safety has always been at the forefront of construction design and engineering. But really, I feel that COVID has caused us to become even more hyper-focused on personal safety. You know, we're talking about an environment that is very hands-on and face-to-face. So how can we utilize tools to make sure that we can successfully continue these types of projects while keeping everybody physically, mentally, and emotionally safe during this pandemic? And then, you know, outside of physical development projects, I feel like COVID has created a, you know, like I said before, a new culture that embraces flexible working. So again, you know, what types of tools can we utilize in the field that allows us to still have that face-to-face interaction, where we're getting new opportunities, where we're helping, whether that's designers or code officials or, you know, what have you, to be able to, you know, continue to do what we all do best. So really, I really want to end on focusing on how important the sustainability trend is going to be and is right now. You know, I feel like in North America, we're talking about it, but a lot of the things are, you know, it's not important to us now, or we'll get to it soon. But I feel like the more that we talk about how important sustainability is in terms of building green buildings and making sure that we're reducing carbon footprints, the better we will be set up for the future. And I feel like COVID has opened the door for us to have those more open and honest conversations about sustainability. So I personally am excited about that moving forward. So like I said, you know, really, I feel like a you know, big sustainability play right now, but I am really much looking forward to that and what the future holds there. And thank you very much again for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Samantha. And that's quite interesting because I really feel that, you know, as we are innovating and as the demand for sustainable products is increasing, there is an even bigger challenge to provide it at a cost that is acceptable and at a cost that has a payback period that one can sustain. So definitely we are going to, you know, talk more about how innovations can bring a change in this time. But you know, I'll quickly go to the next speaker and understand from Sandeep as to how, you know, we are going to tackle in the coming times, you know, and when we talk about, you know, especially in terms of consultancies, the MEP consultants, how challenging will it be for us post-COVID?
Thank you, Ms. Bassi. Am I audible, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I think I completely echo with one point, which I made a specific note, what Ms. Madhurima said, that we should look at the positive impact of what has happened in the new normal. I'll tell you something, the kind of experience which as consultants we have had, it was very difficult in the initial phase of it. A couple of my clients called us and they told us that, what's your approach to work from home? And I said, we have no clue. Everything is locked down. We are also watching movies at home. So as life comes, you know, we can't do anything about it. And we found it an excuse not to work, let me tell you, in the initial phases. And we thought, but then some of the people were very motivating. He said, look, this doesn't work like this. You have to be on the ground. And with some motivational talk, I think we put up things together. We were online with about 90% of our technical staff delivering with 80% of efficiency within 1 week's time. Everybody, I should appreciate, it's very easy to criticize you, since we are the ownership part of it, it's very easy to criticize and say people are not working. I think our people were very excited. Of course, there was a fear of what is going to be happening, but to keep your mind diverted, the best way was to work and to engage yourself in work and to be happy about the productivity which you can bring onto the table. I think that's the only way you could have distracted your a tension in the negative zone which was going. Let me tell you, in consulting, we use a tool which is known as BIM or Revit, so called. We were being pushed again across the wall, saying that by the time the site is stopped, things are not moving ahead. Why don't we start doing Revit modeling in a very serious note? To start working in clash analysis, sitting at our homes, visualizing the whole project on 3D, and try to do things with which, when the site starts, we are able to compensate for whatever we have lost. We invested heavily in BIM in those days. We got the training. My staff started working in training, in receiving the training from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock onwards, everybody was online. They started doing the works. Within 4 months, we became pretty BIM, compliant. And as things proceeded further, and it has been a long journey in the COVID times, I'm so happy to tell you that we have really accelerated ourselves to the next level of deliveries, when now 60% of our projects have moved towards BIM. And the kind of opportunity we have had is that we are able to consider to add more technology to our understanding. Clashes at the sites have been addressed, working in-house on the computer, now working in office, and making sure that we have lesser challenges at the site. BIM has been a great tool for consultants. It has been time that we should have adopted that technology, but we were compelled, and there are many things which happens under compulsion. Data centers have been another challenging, and as we know, bandwidths have picked up, things are moving further. We work very closely with Bureau of Indian Standards to also improvise the codes. So the new normal, which you really call, is a very, very satisfying phase which we are now going through, because we have all the capability, we have all the understanding of what to do and what not to do. Technologies on our side, precast technologies have been adopted into our projects. We worked on a lot of codes, standards, the way the technology which we actually adopted during the COVID times is enhancing our performance today. I've got many examples. We have worked on water conservation features because water consumption in the projects was increasing. All of us know, we used to come back home, have a bath, then get back to the regular routine. All those things in practical life were asking us more energy, more water. So doing the things more smartly in the new normal will now give us better results, as things will getting to be a world with lesser COVID or a mild COVID scenario in times to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very useful. And yes, you're right that this has been a very stressing time for all of us. We have coped up, through our work, and we are still doing it. And this is a true depiction that, we are on an online platform today and we are still able to manage work. And this clearly shows that, times have changed, and now we are moving into a time that more and more.
Bassi, I'll just take half a minute more. The best thing has been our carbon footprint has reduced. My clients are calling me 30% less in meetings what they used to call me earlier. And my travel has gone down. I can spend more time with my family. I can reduce my carbon footprint, and the dependency on technology has become immensely pleasure. So I would be meeting so many colleagues here whom I will now look forward to meeting future in person, but at least we have become friends and colleagues on a virtual platform, and it's very gratifying, I would say so. Sorry, Ms. Bassi, but I wanted to bring in this point of reducing carbon footprint.
That's quite useful, because I think we all will admit that, working from home was not easy initially. But as we started working and as we started putting things into place, I think we all started realizing that these systems are much better, and I think we can be more productive. And, as you rightly said, that reduction of carbon footprint was one of the major, benefits that one could say we could achieve through this crisis. Thank you so much. So now I would quickly go to my next speaker, Mr. Shabbir. I think I will quickly like to hear your comments on today's topic.
Yeah, so as developers, GRIHA Corp, the way we looked at doing things differently in the COVID scenario was a lot of re-innovation, what we called. We started working on the concept of re-innovating, and we came up with the principle of doing touchless mantra in design and execution. So whether we need to redesign our home to include an office in a 2.5 BHK, or we need to ensure that my commercial leasing customer, when he enters my office, it's going to be touchless all the way till the time he reaches his workstation. So when he goes to the lift, he's able to use the swipe of his hand to call the lift. When he enters the lift, he's able to speak out the number of the floor, and he enters the particular floor, and then including water from touchless taps or the napkin which flows with the flow of hand. So that was the whole focus on ensuring that my commercial leasing IT customers get back in a way which is safe and good for them. As GRIHA Corp, we have the largest green building footprint in the country in terms of doing work of around 1.5 crore square feet per construction per year. And all our buildings, whether they are homes or IT buildings or malls or hotels, are at least Goel certified either from the US Green Building Council or the Indian Green Building Council. So that is something which we have worked on. We were the first ones in India to start doing that in 2007, 2008, when people thought we were crazy to spend the extra cost in making sustainable buildings. But I guess that the COVID scenario kind of gave a fillip to the fact that people want to work in an office which is sustainable. You know, they want the son to go into a green school, and they want to go through a green metro. So all that kind of gave a fillip to promoting healthier lifestyle spaces. So the acceleration towards sustainability really helped, and both in design and healthier living. So we also work very closely with the WELL standard in ensuring that our buildings follow the WELL protocol of healthy living. So that kind of helped both my residential and commercial customers in taking this forward. So we are now looking at the whole concept of the fact that how do we do this all the time, right? All the time is something, because this is a new normal, whether we like it or not. There is going to be a hybrid working which is going to happen, because my commercial customers are all IT. So they are probably, in all due respect, will move towards a hybrid working. So that's the way to go. And residential customers or my hotels, which also have stepped up in ensuring the safety of the guests who stay in them. So there are many firsts which we try to do in terms of ensuring that what we do as a reputed developer, been in this business since 1956. We looked at various things in terms of what I just mentioned. Of course, there was supply chain, and there are still supply chain disruptions which are happening in terms of ensuring that the projects get completed in time. The laborers who stay in our particular labor colony have to be of a certain standard. And we are happy to say that when Prince Charles visited Mumbai, he kind of gave us a thumbs up when he visited our labor colony at Mahalakshmi, Mumbai. So we fully understand that COVID is here to stay, and we need to ensure disruptions, whether it is the material price, the freight cost, which has gone crazy, steel and cement costs, the manpower cost, and the fuel cost. So taking that forward, design parameters will also need to take into consideration all these factors, because at the end of the day, we need to develop a product which is both affordable and sustainable for the common man. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, I think the most affected industry has been the real estate sector, and I can completely relate to this, because the kind of response that we get for our projects in GRIHA, we definitely know that there is a big slowdown, and the industry is trying to come back. But with this current model of being on hybrid mode, this becomes even more challenging. Like the mantra you just spelled, that touchless mantra that you had for your projects, that probably is going to be the new normal now. And definitely for the times to come, we are going to look at even more technologies that are going to be supportive of this. Thank you so much, Mr. Shabbir. I'll quickly go to Sujal, Shah, and then I'll go to my next speaker, and then we'll start our discussions today. Thank you. Yes, Sujal, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, organizers, for having me here. My fellow panelists, they spoke about building redesign and reducing carbon footprints, green buildings, new engineering concepts, etc. However, coming from the background of fire and safety, I would like to go back to the basics of fire safety and its importance, as I believe we lack a big time over there. No matter how much advancements we bring in the building designs and engineering them, unless the bars have not been raised amongst not only the audience here, but the entire country with regards to the fire safety, the norms shall only remain in the books or in theories. Stay safe. I am sure everybody has heard this phrase. You know, it has almost become a stock phrase for us. We use this in our everyday lives while signing off an email or during our chat conversation or like waving goodbye to anybody. We say stay safe. Do we really understand the actual meaning of stay safe apart from COVID? As in, yes, COVID has led us to much heightened safety concerns, but what about fire and safety? Although we put in a lot of efforts to control the pandemic in past 2 years, the country still faces many other long-standing challenges when it comes to improving the health, safety, and well-being of the population. One of these ongoing challenges is improving fire safety standards in workplaces, public buildings, and homes. I believe it is high time we did something on that front as well. Let us take a moment here. Now that things are pretty much normal on the COVID front and people have started going out and all, let us imagine a situation where we go to a restaurant for having a dinner, or maybe we go to a hotel for a conference. Hypothetically speaking, while attending the conference or while going to have a dinner, if there is fire and the hall or the room goes dark and it starts filling with smoke, how would you respond? While entering the premise, were you conscious enough to look for and register the fire exit signs or the fire exit doors, etc.? Did you really care where the refuge area would be in that particular building? The typical acceptable evacuation time to relatively safe place in low risk places is 3 minutes, and for high risk places, it is 2 minutes. So imagine closing your eyes because it is dark and you cannot see, and also imagine holding your breath at the same time because you absolutely cannot inhale smoke, and then being able to reach to a safe place at some unknown hotel, probably the one you are visiting for the first time. What are the odds? If you are able to virtually visualize yourself in such a situation and understand the horror of the same, I am sure you understand the importance of fire and safety in any building. Speaking about the current scenario in India, each year a huge number of lives and assets worth billions are lost in fire accidents in India. Several fire audits have stated that majority of the commercial establishments or the residential properties, they lack proper compliance with basic fire prevention norms. And let us be very clear here that we have all the safety standards, compliances, or norms in place. We are not lacking on that front at all. Where we are lacking is the implementation of these norms. The norms are pretty stringent, but we have, a very casual approach to the implementation of these things. And it goes for the residential sector as well. So question arises, why is the scenario such? Why do we lack proper fire compliance systems in India? So basically, I think first and foremost reason of this is that fire protection market in India is extremely fragmented. It is hugely unorganized with strong regional presence. So this creates absence of proper implementation of the stringent norms. And there are only a few players with pan-India presence in the fire protection market. Most Indian companies consider that fire and safety, spending on fire and safety is unproductive and fruitless exercise. Not to mention that market is also flooded with counterfeit products. There are a lot of cheap imports coming in from China and other countries. For example, BIS standard for hydrant valves. Hydrant valve is a very basic equipment, when it comes to active fire protection system. So the BIS standard for hydrant valve, it permits the usage of stainless steel grades 304 and 316. However, there are a lot of instances where people tend to cut corners and use cheaper grade of stainless steel. I mean, 202 is not an acceptable grade of stainless steel to be used for fire protection. However, it is highly used, and it would never be, it would never be helpful in the time of actual hazard, because it is highly corrosive. Probably if you use a 202 valve and after 6 months, if you try to use it, it won't be of any help. You cannot use it for sure. So in such cases, quality control measures goes for a toss. And this is all because of unawareness of people. They are not aware of importance of fire safety. And to add fuel to the fire, we entered into the COVID era. So when we entered into the COVID era, I mean, things change, the priorities changed, the way people looked at things, the way people perceived the environment, the way people thought where they should spend and where they shouldn't. Everything changed. So COVID actually brought in a lot of financial and operational impact on a lot of things, and fire and safety was no exception in this particular time. So due to COVID, the prices of raw materials, mainly bronze, aluminum, steel, these are the materials which are used in most of the equipments for firefighting, and the prices, they skyrocketed, and thus it caused a lot of trouble to the site owners or the contractors, etc. When the budget doesn't permit, many owners compromise on fire and safety systems due to lack of the awareness of importance of it. Maintenance of the existing systems has also been majorly ignored during the pandemic times, or some contractors have been doing remote maintenance, which can affect the quality of work. Now, the panel here is aware that maintenance of fire protection system is not something which can be done remotely. Your physical presence is required. So planned preventive fire maintenance is very important. Having a fire system in place is not the end of the story. It has to be in 100% working condition when needed, which occupants sometimes, they do not really care. So considering all of these things, building redesign, I mean, we are right now talking about building redesign. So buildings need to be designed to offer an acceptable level of fire safety and minimize the risk from heat and smoke. This is very important while we talk about building redesign from the fire and safety point of view. The primary objective is to reduce the potential for death or injury to the occupants of a building, also to minimize damages, and for the building to continue to function as much as possible even after the fire. Points that need consideration from fire safety angle while redesigning buildings in the new normal are very important. We realize that the intersection between public health and built environment is very important. Things like air ventilation, refuge areas, fire compartmentation, evacuation times from protected areas, protected rooms for delayed evacuation, fire doors, etc. All these things became, I mean, these things I believe are going to take a major turn. They are going to be very, very important in coming times. This is what COVID has taught us. Even the contactless design and technology, this attracts development of a lot of warehouses and data centers, as Mr. Sandeep Goel rightly said. So a lot of re-engineering needs to be done over there. We need to think on environmentally sustainable and distinctive smart material on exterior cladding and facades, even the surface finishes. These are the things which needs to be taken care of for proper fire and safety systems. Some of the other emerging trends would be, we have new sources of energy, like lithium-ion batteries. We use them in our cars now. So battery storage technologies needs to be considered, as new energies come with new hazards. So we will have to have, something on this front as well. This is a very new concept and people don't really know if there is a fire on a lithium-ion battery, how to how to extinguish it. IoT-based applications for smart detection, notification, automatic fire suppression, etc. Since there is a lot of data into question, new applications will be are needed for data analysis, remotely monitored building security systems, robotic firefighting systems, electronic activated sprinklers. This is going to be the next thing in new normal. Mass notification systems, articulated boom tower fire engines, or maybe even smoke control systems for proper ventilation and all. We understood that ventilation is going to be very important post-COVID. So considering all of these things, let us take a moment again and let us go back to the same situation where we were stuck before 2 minutes. Now, if we go back and imagine the same situation in the conference room or in the hotel room, after adoption of all these new concepts that we have been talking about right now, so the active as well as passive fire systems are in place, and they are also compliant to the standards, and they are well maintained. You have received a notification, you are there in the conference room, you are stuck, and you have to safeguard yourself. So you have received a notification on your cell phone about the fire and the fire evacuation plan. You are intimated that fire services are on the way. The fire department is also informed using the IoT applications in place, and they would arrive shortly and they would start the evacuation as well. The automatic fire suppression systems have been automatically activated. The smoke curtains and the fire curtains, they have dropped down. They have compartmented the open spaces, thereby containing the further spread of fire and smoke. The smoke exhausters have been wirelessly enabled too. So, you can imagine, I mean, if you are able to see all the fire exit signs clearly and visibly, even in the dark, and you are able to safeguard yourself to a refuge area, I mean, this would be such a, better place or such a safer thing to happen with us. And then this is, I mean, this can go on and on. I can go on and on because of the mass communication systems or because of the IoT or because of the highly technical fire engines, etc. Of course, in any event of fire, we would be seeing a better result, a better outcome, and we would all be in much safer and secure place. Thank you so much. Stay fire safe.
Stay safe. I think the mantra that you just rightly mentioned, that is something that we completely ignore when we design buildings or when we look at our own safety, and something that we don't want to look at, when we are looking at other parameters, of sustainability. But this definitely is taking the center stage now, because now people are looking at buildings, designing it in such a way that they can take care of disasters of the future. Thank you so much for your inputs, and that's really helpful. I'll quickly go to my last speaker, Mr. Tejwant, and I'll have his quick comments on today's topic.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bassi, and thank Lubrizol and Realty Plus for giving me this opportunity to express my views on this topic, which is COVID-19, the new normal. So a lot of my colleague panelists have spoken about various aspects of COVID. That leaves me being the last speaker with I'm like the last man, 11th person, trying to complete the formalities. But basically, I would like to throw in a few aspects which are not covered, because we are all aware of it. What COVID-19 and pandemic has taught us is to take a step back and, sort of look back and think. We've got enough time to look around and think, and it's this whole cliche that I wanted it yesterday and I wanted it the day before. All that becomes hogwash, because when there is COVID, there is no yesterday, we don't know when tomorrow is. So it has taught us to be a little patient and taught us to sort of take things in the right perspective. Secondly, it has also taught us how to look at sustainability, because we have been beating our drums. I have been working on green buildings and intelligent buildings, and from that day onwards, to sustainable buildings and green net zero and now net positive buildings. People were taking it as, okay, somebody next door can do it. I'm not the one required to do it. But today he's given that we've got a chance to see how can I cut my costs? Where are the opportunities? You know, I am already operating at 98% efficiency because I'm a very modern multinational company, but how do I increase my profitability in this coming days? So that has given me this task to look at it and embrace sustainability. Second thing it has taught me is, you know, that looking at air quality is very critical, because we now are conscious that we are not contacting people, you know, making physical contact, maintain differences. And even some of my clients have now gone in for air conditioning duct cleaning, robotic cleaning, because of the thing when we have been talking to them about it for the last maybe 15, 20 years. But today they have keen to do it because they know that there is probably a fear of virus hiding in that dark alley there and bouncing upon you when you are least expecting it. So this is something which has opened their eyes to things which we have been trying to drum in. Another point that is of relevance is that people thought that absence, whenever people ask for a leave during normal times before pandemic, people were always from, oh, but this project is coming up, you know, but that project is coming on, that is to be delivered. Today, people have embraced working from home quite competently, especially for the female, the girl and the women section. It has become a boon because they can work from home, because that is now going to be an accepted norm. So it gives them that added benefit of working from home. Today we are talking of women empowerment. We are talking of women. That is the basis, the platform on which we are talking about. This has opened up an avenue for people, women, to work from home. And it has been embraced quite comfortably, and people realize, yes, we can do complex designs. And as Sandeep said, BIM, that is Building Information Modeling, has helped in, you know, sort of visualizing beforehand the problems that are likely to come up at site. But importantly, all this we have all seen and heard. All my other panelists have talked about supply chain disruption, prices hike, and so on and so forth. But the important message that comes out of it is that there is uncertainty in the stop and start of a business. You start today, and after about a week, again, there are some cases coming up. You stop again, start and stop, which means there is, you know, when you look at a motor car or a motor, anything which starts and stops like that, there is a fatigue coming into play. And as a mechanical engineer, I can only talk of fatigue. But that is what sets in, and that destroys the fabric of that, you know, equipment or the society or whatever we are talking about. So effectively, people are now have to be prepared. How do we take care of that start stop? Secondly, how do we get competent people online? You know, because people have gone out. My expert, you know, welders, my expert fitters, they have all gone to their hometowns. So how do I work with the new things? So in spite of BIM having solved most of my problems, there are physically practical problems or errors created at site. How do I tackle that? Now, this is a classic example where we face this problem, because I come in the unfortunate category of being 50 plus. So during the initial stages of COVID, we were not allowed. I mean, we were reluctant to go to site because of very obvious reasons. And still I had my client to be satisfied. My client was almost 80% of his building was complete, 20% remaining. Some air conditioning duct was fouling with something else. Now, what was the way out? You know, so what we did therefore is, now people were aware and confident of the technology of video. So we said, okay, let me walk through WhatsApp. So the site engineer was a raw freshie, because we could, whoever was available, hands on deck type of stuff. The ship is sinking, all hands to board on the deck, you know, to the board. So anybody was available who could do a little bit of welding was brought on site. So, but point is, how do you guide him? There was nobody to guide, nobody senior enough to guide him. So we went through the exercise of, guiding him through the, the WhatsApp. For images, in fact, I got a closer view, because when he went to site, I obviously could not climb up those steep, sort of half constructed buildings. It was a risky affair for us. So, but this gave me a great opportunity. The young 20 plus ones could climb up, jump up, show me the close up of the snag, and I could even give him a decent enough solution. So what is happening is that this is something where I feel that we have to now take the next step, because everybody has talked about design, sustainability. That is, to me, yes, it has got to be done. There is nothing new about it, whether pandemic or no pandemic. Sustainability is the thing. The climate change is not going to wait for a pandemic or whatever. It's going on. It's going to happen. So that is I think a non-disputable, non-negotiable act of design. But importantly, what I have found is that very often we neglect the site. The actual people who translate your dreams into realities. They are the ones who are not even aware of what is green. You talk about green for this, green that, green sustainability. Envelopes have to be so and so and so forth. Lights have to be good. But the guy at site who's doing the maintenance and execution, he's not aware of your intent. How many of you have actually talked to the mechanic or the technician at site and I told him what is green? So in fact, we've been conducting some, sort of continuing education programs under the banner of ISHRE, where we are trying to bring in the maintenance people. So it is green maintenance, we are calling it, making them aware as to what is involved in green. They know green. Green means what? Only paint green? No, it's not paint green. It's actually very many factors which they are not even aware of. So because they are just following instructions. But our maintenance manuals, our OEM maintenance characters do not, even your BIS standards are not entirely open about how to maintain a particular thing. How often should I maintain a motor? How much often should I grease? How much should I, sort of overall? When is it time to replace? Those are factors which are not taken in that. They are not aware of sustainability. And they are the ones on whom we are dependent for sustainability. I design a building and go away and say, hope the building lasts for 50 years. Whatever innovation, IoT, etc. I do, it is not going to last unless the guy at the site is able to understand the importance of certain things. Very often I have seen, if you look at the air conditioning system, we install what you call, the dirty air filter status, that when the filter is choked up, I should get a signal. Now the maintenance guy, he says every time this damn bell rings, keeps ringing now and then, every 1 week I keep getting this ping ping. So what have I done? I've disconnected it. So beautiful. His problem is solved. He sleeps in peace. But problem is that the entire purpose of that device is totally lost. So I feel now the time has come to, when you are rethinking of designing alone, we should talk of constructing buildings. We should talk about how do you build buildings in the new normal. We have to take advantage of the various insights that we have got and the acceptance of so many things from the owners to the various stakeholders are actually have sort of bought into this. So we must take advantage of this. Like it's like hitting the iron when it is hot. Take advantage of it. Make use of the technology. Fortunately, technology is stabilizing. Electronics is getting cheaper. A lot of people are getting into the Make India movement. A lot of devices are going to be constructed, will be constructed, fabricated, made in India. And we should take advantage and start moving towards tackling the mass at the site, which is never going to be ever fully educated, or fully, I wouldn't say educated, I'm sorry, fully aware of what is expected of them at site. So that's the senior people who are at back end can actually take advantage to go to the site virtually. So if BIM and this can collaborate, if I have my BIM on my table, side by side the actual videos, I can correlate much easier and walk through in a more organized or a defined manner, rather than, because when typically when a building is constructed, it's a maze, column to column. You really can't distinguish which column am I. I mean, today, even after 30 years, I'm generally lost in a basement. So effectively, if I have a BIM model and the reality superimposed, some sort of a platform like this available to us as stakeholders in building thing, it would help in sort of solving a lot of the problems and really make it sustainable in the true sense, not on paper, but in practical reality, where if our 7 wonders of the world can last 500 years, 600 years without any green building certification, I think we can do 100 times better with all the modern technology, codes, and the experience that we have. I think this is my take on the subject.
I think it was wonderful hearing everyone's views and kind of having views on various aspects, from fire safety to awareness among all the stakeholders. The developers' point of view from Mr. Shabbir, and the TERI, how the guidelines for green buildings, and in fact all the solution provider from Samantha and Madhurima about how the standards are now keeping pace with the new technologies, and from Sandeep how things are happening. We'll take some questions that we have got. One question very interesting that has come up is, what is that one word that sums up your prediction of where design is headed? Shabbir, will like to start from you. What do you think that, what is your one word? How do you sum up where design is headed?
Okay, that's interesting. It's the first time somebody can put design in one word, but I guess
Let's have one sentence.
Yeah. So design in one word, we'll have to re-innovate. The re-innovation is the key in the post-COVID era or the ongoing COVID era. Even otherwise, design needs to be also practical for any developer to be able to construct and sell or lease. Because I would like to build the Taj Mahal in a remote corner of the country, but will I be able to sell it at the price which is getting commanded, or will it get leased at a rent which is affordable? Thank you.
Practical and sustainable innovation, with what Mr. Shabbir Kanchwala is saying. Ms. Bassi, how do you react to that? What according to you would be that, one word or one sentence that where design is headed?
I think comfort and affordability is something that the coming designs will have to largely look into, because the mantra is that, because we are going to be working mostly in the hybrid mode now, so comforts will play a very major role now. And definitely that should come at a cost that's affordable. So I think these are the two key words that I will, use for the coming up constructions.
So convenience, but at an affordable cost. From a solution provider aspect, Samantha, what do you have to say? What is where the design is headed? What is your one sentence or word for that?
I would say accessibility. So we can think of accessibility in a lot of different terms. Accessible for remote work, accessible for high-speed internet, accessible for sustainable solutions.
Okay, so accessibility, I think that's a very good word. Accessibility to all, in fact, through to all segments of the society. Even if we have innovation, if it is affordable, it needs to penetrate all segments of the society to be accessible, to be used and be functional. Madhurima, your view on that? What's where design is headed, where engineering is headed?
I think it should head towards the 4 pillars of safety, that is structural safety, fire safety, public safety, health safety, and along with it, it should ensure sustainability and accessibility.
Sujal, you'd been talking about fire safety, but in terms of when we are planning our buildings, as you said, let's be safe. So where do you think the design is headed now? What is your prediction? Where our designs are going to be?
I think everything is interconnected. So, connectivity would mean, it would make a lot of sense speaking about fire safety or sustainability or anything. Yeah. So connectivity is where
connected idea. So it has to connect all the ideas that our speakers are saying, whether it is sustainability, accessibility, affordability, innovation, and safety. Everything will have to be connected. So we need to connect the dots. Sandeep, how do you connect the dots? Where the design and engineering is headed?
Sapna, my word in last 24 years has never changed. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So my word in last 24 years has remained the same, and that word I very proudly follow and feel. And I am a follower, very strong follower of a word known as commitment. You see, if you have a commitment for your society, for your family, for your client, you will surpass everything to do and bring that comfort, affordability, as all my good colleagues have said. The government made a commitment for vaccine, and we have it. You made a commitment of doing a good session, we have it. Madhurima ji makes a commitment of compliances and codes, she does that. So I think I should be committed first to my family, to my client, to my society. That's the best way to serve, I would say so.
That's right. So commitment is the word from Mr. Sandeep Goel, that unless you don't have the commitment, you will not be able to fulfill all the other predictions that we have. Mr. Tejwant Navalkar, what do you think where the design is headed? Where we had spoken about change in mindset in our earlier session. So where are we headed now?
Headed is one thing, where I want it headed is another thing. So there are two things actually. What I want to head it is, it should be keep it simple and keep it maintainable. And the other thing is, my tagline is, live in design in harmony with nature. To be in harmony with nature. That is important. Then sustainability follows. Everything else follows. If you're in harmony with nature, everything falls in place. I think that is the most important thing.
That's right. So harmony with nature and keep it simple is what Mr. Tejwant is saying. One last question from everyone, which is the most underrated idea according to you, which we asked from our other panel. And again, we have got the same question. What is the most underrated idea in building development? Let's start from our woman speaker, Samantha. What, according to you, is the most underrated idea in building developments?
I know we keep saying it, and it's I don't want it to be a buzzword, but I think the most underrated is sustainability. How do we make sustainable buildings by, we're saying you're going to have to pay this upfront cost to make something for a long-term investment and long-term benefits. So how do we sell that? So I really think that that's my words for sure.
Okay, so we are still not giving it that due importance when we are looking at our buildings. Mr. Kanchwala, you are completely focused on sustainability in your projects, in your approach. So what, according to you, is the most underrated idea?
See, I guess I agree with Samantha because, less than 10% of the buildings in this country are actually looking at sustainable seriously. Because the balance 90% for the kind of GDP growth which we want is just not happening. So after COVID, a lot of developers are looking at sustainability, but you need to look at wholesome sustainability. You don't want to give a lip service by providing a garden. Providing a garden on the rooftop or on a podium does not make it into a green, sustainable building. So you need to go all the way to implement the green sustainable measures.
Right. Madhurima, what Mr. Shabbir Kanchwala said, that Samantha said sustainability is still underrated. Mr. Kanchwala is saying most of the developers or most of the the companies, they go for the low-hanging fruits when they talk about sustainability. What, according to you, is the most underrated idea, or do you agree with our other speakers?
I think that the most underrated idea is the accessibility. I don't understand why it is felt that it is meant only for a particular section for the society. This is to benefit all. So I feel that it should not be taken as a charity being done, and barrier-free design needs to be incorporated in the buildings.
Okay, so when we are talking about sustainability on green buildings, it does not mean for only the particular segment. It has to go to the bottom of the pyramid. It's for them as well. Ms. Bassi, do you agree with that? Sustainability, accessibility.
I completely agree with all the speakers, but additionally, I would like to say that the social aspects of sustainability are completely underrated. When we look at the aspects of labor safety, and and we look at how they are doing on the sites, I think that is one aspect that we should look at, and we'll have to pay a lot of heed, and that is how we are going to grow in future.
That's right. So let's not forget about the people who are working on sites. When we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about environmental hazards and health and wellness. So it needs to penetrate that level as well. Mr. Goel, what do you have to add to that? What is the most underrated idea in our development, design and development?
I would say I have not experienced it much, but I've heard a lot about it. And that is what is known as compliances. I've been fortunate in many, many years. I've not met one chairman of a group which says, make a shortcut. The only thing is that as a design team, if you don't give the right advice at the right time, then there are problems which come later at part of the day. There's a meeting ongoing in my office. I have the senior management sitting here. He says, Sandeep, ask us for the moon. But after 2 years, don't tell us that you have not asked us what you should have asked us. Don't assume. Right. So I think people are very specific about compliances, but I hear that people want to take a shortcut. I'm still to meet those people who want to take a shortcut at the cost of somebody else's safety compromise.
That's good for you. You have not met those people yet. So great. Sujal, your this thing, what is the most underrated idea?
I think I went on for like 10 minutes about fire and safety, and I really
we are still not giving that enough importance. Okay. Yes. So fire safety, Sujal is completely passionate about that. We are still not taking it very seriously. Mr. Tejwant, your closing remark, your one word, what is the most underrated idea?
Yeah, and I have, in my talk itself, I have mentioned the one underrated factor is about maintenance. People who maintain. Look at a 5-star hotel. Where does the chief engineer sit? In the basement. Look at a hospital, the chief engineer, where does he sit? The basement. That reflects the mental attitude of the people owning the building, that they are not important enough, you know. So my point is, the take is that the maintenance of a building is the one which will give you the sustainability, not the designers. Designers, yes, but the person, the people who will actually make it work for you, sustain for you, are the people who are going to maintain it. You know? And they have to be given due respect and a position in the hierarchy in the organization, where they are also treated with the same respect that the people who are fronting the organization as well.
That's right. Given the life cycle of a building from 15 to 20 years, it is the maintenance which will keep it running. Correct. And if we are talking about green buildings, many a times that we have seen is that the green features, like Mr. Tejwant also mentioned, that they are not maintained or they are not in functioning. So the entire purpose of a green building is defeated. True. So I think very interesting panel discussion, very varied views about the the entire aspects of the entire ecosystem of our design and engineering. Kavya, we have got from our panel members, and Ms. Bassi, she kind of brought all the aspects from all our speakers in a very fantastic way. So thank you so much, Kavya. I hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Sapna. In fact, I would love to thank Shabnam and all the panelists, because we managed to gather some interesting nuggets of insights, dynamic perspectives, each one from your respective expertise and experience. And I think it sets the tone for the future as well. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.